Whenever you are ready, my friend.
It's on.
And good morning to you all. You're on the vibe here on 88.9 Wym FM, and I am just so excited this morning that we are absolutely honoured to have both Donna and Michael Fechner, who are speaking to us directly from France. I'm going to let them tell you what town they're in, and guess what, folks? I'm sure that you do know where they're at, because we've been having also this competition with the photo in the attic book, and we've had some really good responses, and that'll go into the draw hopefully at the end of next week. And for those people who have participated and put their answers in on the two towns that are the one town that's in France and that the other town name that's in Queensland, and we've given you quite a few hints now, so I'm not going to say too much more about that, but I am just honoured and so happy to have both Donna and Michael on the airway. How are you both?
We're great. Bonjour, everybody. We are in the little village of Vignacourt.
In northern France, deep behind the lines on the Somme.
Well, that is just fantastic. And how has your adventure been?
Oh, it's been extremely busy. The French are very devoted to the Australian action that's happened since World War I, and Anzac Day for them is just as big an occasion as it is for us at home in Australia. We arrived
on the 21st, and our first port of call was a lovely concert in Vignacourt Church from Gippsland Grammar School, and it was beautiful, a musical presentation. They tend to do something like that every Anzac Day here. We then had an event to commemorate a soldier called James Dillon, who there's a bit of thought around the woods that he is the first Indigenous soldier that has been found in the Vignacourt collection of the Lost Diggers.
So our friend George Petru donated to the little tiny town, just like Vignacourt, donated a portrait of James Dillon, and we went to his grave to honour him. And it's his anniversary, actually, this Thursday. He died in 1918.
You guys, seriously, you both blow me away. We are just so fortunate as Australians to have two dedicated Australians like yourself and George. Just the fact that, you go to such a place and not only just commemorate and celebrate and remember those who have fought to protect our freedom, maybe not the freedom of Australia so much, but the freedom of Europe at such a young age. But the work that you have done is just, I actually become speechless, believe it or not, because I think you're an honour to us Australians. And
that's lovely.
Thanks, Sam.
Well, and I mean that sincerely. The work that George has done with the Art of Sacrifice and your great book, The Photos in the Attic, which will become a major, motion picture. I can't wait to be sitting in the same theatre with you. So I'm plugging for a sponsor here.
Of course.
To watch the premiere of Photos in the Attic, and the story that's behind that. But when I think about the fact that you're actually there,
yeah,
I have to share this with you too, because I have had people like Dr. Michael Atkinson, who's a regular on our show, but others who aren't regulars have said to me that we should seriously think about what we do this time next year, and we should be doing something, God willing, we're around, but I think you're going to have an audience this time next year if you go, accompanying you. I want to come.
Well,
that would be wonderful. Before COVID, we were doing it. We started in 2016, so just before the centenary. And we had bringing tours here every year. And then COVID hit, of course, and we went back to our other job of teaching. But it's still alive here, and they are so excited to have Australians back on their soil.
But you're right, Sam. Even getting here, we pinch ourselves every day of where we are, and when we wander out onto the battlefields or with a group of French commemorating a soldier, it's just incredible. We took kids down to the local cemetery here in Vignacourt the other day, and there were 30 kids there. fulfilling that wish of mayors to never forget, and they put small little commemoration things onto the graves of 16 Queenslanders in the cemetery. And again, standing there, the weather was dull, the birds were twittering, and we're putting these things onto the graves of kids, of the soldiers. The kids are actually really commemorating it. They're respectful. It was truly unbelievable. And it's events like that every day that just we pinch ourselves.
And the 16 soldiers were researched by my Year 6s in my school in Brisbane, St Finbarrs. So we did a live cross with them, showing these little kids in this village putting their doves on the headstones of the boys who've been lying here for over 100 years. So and then I sang Waltzing Matilda, and they translated it and sang it in French. So it's those moments where it's true. You just pinch yourself and say, wow, how lucky are we to be here, but how lucky are we to be Australian?
Yeah. And the next day we had the Vignacourt barbecue, which we instigated a number of years ago, and they had the Vigna run. There was a big 5 and 10 kilometre run. The Frenchers loved that. And then the barbecue, beer infused with Australian whiskey, Scotch whiskey, which was a great drop. And it's just gone on from there. Anzac Day obviously was incredible, very cold out at Villas Bretonnier, but the ceremony and the spirit out there with another 3,500 Australians was wonderful.
But when you think about it, like you really put, goosebumps on my back, if you like. My hair's raised up when you talk about that you've actually walked on soil that was fought for in the First World War, and we would never as Australians, and in a way you say, thank God that the war wasn't in our backyard, in the sense that it wasn't on Australian soil, but to walk on land that was fought for and, so passionately by Australian and New Zealanders and French.
Yes.
Let's not forget.
And Canadians.
The United States,
Canadians.
Yep.
And many others. The Chinese were here as labour workers. The Nepalese were here.
Yes.
The Indians were here. There's a lot of people. And in the Vignacourt collection, there's a lot of soldiers from a multitude of nations that fought on the same side.
And I think in a place, because we went to Vignacourt, as you say, standing on the soil, there are bodies still within that soil. So some of the soldiers have never been found. They're still finding bones, etc. So it's sacred ground.
And we had a moment there. This lovely elderly gentleman walked up to us and asked us if we were Australian. He reached into his pocket and pulled out 3 little bags that had shrapnel elements in them, and handed them to us and said, "These came from my farm. They are Australian. We will never forget." And that was incredible.
And, exactly. So you think of those moments that you and Donna and the other fortunate Australians, George and his wife and family, friends that have been there. Hence the reason why all of a sudden there's this want to go and do exactly what you've just done. Even the revealing of the photos of the attic and how that all came about, and the story behind it. That's another part of our history that we have not experienced. We know about it, but we haven't experienced it.
And that's been our job, is to try and get the story out there a lot more. And I'm sure the movie will do that. And I was sitting, went to the Tobacco the other day, which is like the bar, and that's where Rosie and Bill have a few moments in the bar. And so I took a photo of the bar, and I retraced the steps of Rosie and Bill here in the village and took photographs of the settings and where the movie was.
Because the bar's the same, isn't it, Donna?
It's the same.
The same bar that was there in 1918.
Yeah, same place.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in it having a drink 100 and odd years later. And as Donna just said, Rosie and Bill were there.
Yeah, with the Canadians.
With the Canadians.
In 1918.
Bringing to life the photos in the attic book.
And we were just as noisy as I'm sure they were.
Well, now you've just made me really envy, not only because...
we'll give you a drink there, Sam. We'll take you for a drink there, Sam.
Well, hey, listen, just be careful what you wish for, because as I said, and not so jokingly, you have really whet the appetite of a number of people that have said, we want to have that opportunity that, you've just experienced and had. But, you know, I guess one of the things I did want to ask is, you know, and you touched on it about the people. So how do people really react when they come across Aussies like you who are bringing the story to life?
I suppose this is a little village, and we've had a lot of work. We've been working with them for around 9 years now, and they were so happy to have us back. We've got all these gifts at our front door today because we are leaving tomorrow to say goodbye, and please bring your friends next year. So if somebody, not just in this village, but any other village, they hear our accent, and so they'll come up and say, "Êtes-vous Australian?" And as soon as they know you're Australian, there is an invite into their front yard for a cup of coffee. There's somebody shouting you drinks. There's somebody just giving you a
cuddle. Isn't that beautiful?
They still, from their grandfathers and their great-grandfathers and grandmothers, they still remember the Australians who were here, and they said, "Vous avez un bonheur." You have a great sense of humour. And yeah, we have a lot of life, and that's what they appreciate.
And I think, Sam, one of the most touching ceremonies we've taken part in was at a little village not far from here, or an hour from here, called Caudry. And I think we mentioned to you, William Chisholm, the first Australian to die here on the Somme. His family had come from Canada and other places, and they had this incredible ceremony. The whole town was really celebrating this Australian. Even though he was embedded with the British forces, he's recognised as the first Australian to die during the First World War in 1914. And then we went back to where he's actually buried, and right opposite his grave is his mother's. His mother, after she passed away, had her ashes transported over, and it's in a cemetery plot right opposite where William is buried. And a couple of the people were saying, you know, what love is that, and what dedication to lose your son and then to have your ashes buried halfway across the world a number of years later. But that brought it home to us as well.
But the number of French who attended that ceremony...
Yeah. They were French. There were 4 Australians.
Just to acknowledge the presence of the Aussies and the Allied troops in World War One. So it's everywhere you turn, and it's not just now. It's heightened now, but it's anywhere you go. There are Australian flags hanging from the doors, kangaroos down the main street of Villebrequenier, platypus on the stop sign, all of these quaint little things that they bring out. Yeah.
So it's been an absolute visit.
Yeah. The message is very strong. It's a really thank you to the Australians, isn't it?
Oh. Absolutely. And it's n'oublions pas. We will never forget. And it's not just never, like we say, lest we forget, but it's basically we won't forget the Australians.
Yeah.
No, and again, that is just amazing. And we are running out of time, and I'm also conscious of the fact that where you are, but, you know, it is absolutely amazing. I can actually picture the place in my mind of where you are right now.
Well, I'm just about to have a pain au chocolat avec un café. So
this morning, all we've done is tee up our farewell. So we'll be going back to the Tabac this evening for more French beer and backslapping and arbiento
and cooey
and cooey.
Well, please, if you get the opportunity, and I know we could probably talk for quite a considerable length of time about this and your experience, but when you do get back, we need to touch base again.
Absolutely.
And talk about some of that further about your experience there and how we can make sure that we never forget.
Yeah.
And I get very concerned about, we use the word, we never forget, but we tend to only remember during Anzac Day.
Yes.
We should never forget means we should remember this all the time, every day of our living life.
Yeah.
Because we can never say thank you enough to Australian, Defence Forces and all the others and the New Zealanders, but from around the world that protect our freedom. We take it too much for granted.
Absolutely.
But I just want to say, look, I really do appreciate you coming on the show, across thousands of miles. I know that our listeners are going to be wanting to hear more about your story, but please give our love and our respect to our French partners, our French friends, especially in the village there, and tell them that, you know what, here in Melbourne on 88.9 FM, we're thinking about them. We love them, and we thank God for their hospitality to us Australians, especially to you two.
Mate, that's wonderful. And don't forget to let your listeners know, if they want to catch up on some of the things we've done, look on the YouTube site, Inter CCG.
All right, Inter-CCG. Well,
That's it.
We'll make sure that we keep reminding people, and I'm looking forward to seeing you both here. Now, we'll have to do something about the bar situation, which bar we will go to.
There's never a problem. That's never a problem. Actually, in Vignacourt, there's only one bar here, so he's pretty capitalised.
And Vincent, who we've been allowed to call Vince, is the man of the hour.
All right, well, you give him our regards.
We will.
And say to them, and you can say to them, Aussie, 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 oi, oi,
yes.
oi, we love you all. And we love you both too, and thank you so much for being a part of the show again this morning.
Thank you, Sam.
A biento, Sam.
A biento.